Welcome to this edition of On Point with Kartikeya. I'm joined by Shakthi Sinha, a former private secretary to the former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He also served in Afghanistan for 3 years while he was working with United Nations. So thank you so much for giving us time on this issue of evacuation, takeover of Taliban. I think the fundamental issue here is that could India have avoided a situation where it had to close its embassy and not go for a mass evacuation?
Very, very good point and a very difficult question. But I would think yes. In the present circumstances, evacuation was the right thing to have done because the way situation had developed and the fact that though the Taliban is in town, the Taliban is not alone in town in Kabul. The ISI is very much there. In fact, the ISI is fairly embedded inside the Taliban. Each unit of the Taliban has ISI elements in it. Having said that, if I look back, I would feel that the Taliban, as everybody now accepts, is not one consolidated, unified body. It has various groups and factions, particularly the Doha Shura, as it is now called, the political office in Doha. Very strong elements in it were opposed to Pakistan, open to India. And therefore, while other countries, most other countries have engaged with the Taliban for a long time, Russia, China, obviously, but the United States, Europe, France, all others have done so for a long time. India has not done it. On the other hand, the Afghan government itself, Karzai and Ghani, were both keen on engaging the Taliban. Taliban who rejected engaging them. In that sense, by tying ourselves so closely with this point of view, we have left ourselves with no option. Had we slowly engaged with the Taliban, and as I said, the elements in it which are favorably inclined, or it is that very against Pakistan. Baradar was picked up by Pakistan for opening a line to Karzai, tortured and kept in captivity for 8 years, till the Americans ordered him out for the Doha discussions. And let's not forget, Taliban have not attacked India, criticized India. In fact, they criticized Foreign Minister Pakistan Qureshi for trying to link Kashmir developments of 5th of August with Afghanistan. They said this is wrong. We discount any such link. What happens in Kashmir has no bearing on the peace talks in Afghanistan. So in other words, again, I'm not saying the Taliban is a body you and I'd like to meet. No, not at all. But we work with all kinds of people all over the world. And I think in that sense, over the last 8, 7, 10 years, we should have opened up and open lines of communication to different parts of the Taliban.
You're saying that we could have, if not behaved, followed what the Russians did or what the Chinese did, open lines with Talibans 7, 8 years ago?
Slowly build up relationship. I still don't say it would have avoided what is happening today, but the possibilities were there at least. I still feel that going forward, also we would have different possibilities because whoever rules Kabul wants to rule as an Afghan, would not want to rule as a puppet of Pakistan. And therefore there are possibilities, but yes, now it's past, it's a closed chapter, that part is over. Now it's an academic question whether we should have talked. But yes, had we talked, there would have been possibilities of different outcomes, possibly.
Look at the irony, Mr. Sinha, the way Ghani administration dissolved, the way people shifted their loyalties, which is, I don't want to use the word, the Afghan trait, it's like stereotyping, right, but it's part of the history. And the way, Ashraf Ghani ran away from Kabul, it has built a narrative that it was a government which was behaving like puppets of America, and the Taliban is the government of the Afghans.
It's unfortunate. But the reality is that Taliban is not popular. The government still had a reasonable amount of legitimacy. It didn't have credibility at all. And part of the problem is not just that they were seen as puppets of America. Part of it that they did not democratize the polity. The fact is that the electoral system is broken. The elections have been a farce. Once you do all that, obviously people lose faith in you. But yes, the government melted away because suddenly people thought that this won't last. And the famous writer, Václav Havel, said that about communism in the East Europe, is the first person who confronts a policeman, which brings down the regime in that sense. So this was not a regime which was substantial, unfortunately. And therefore, when people thought America is gone, we can't survive, why fight? They just deserted. It's happened in the past. It happened when Taliban got lost. When Taliban lost by 2001, it happened the same thing. Taliban just melted away. Mm-hmm. It's without stereotyping, yes. I'm not stereotyping, but I get your point.
Mrs. Sinha, you have taken a very contrarian view. that India has, nothing to lose because it was not in the game. Can you just elaborate on that point? What you meant by it? Because for a common person, he would say that, well, how do you say that? How can you say that? Because India invested so much from Salma Dam to Indira Gandhi Hospital to Delram Jaranj Road, the BRO workings, the electricity poles, put up in Jalalabad. The whole line, it was, done by the Indians. So, then how would you say that, we should not say that we have lost because we were actually not in the game. But on the other hand, there has been so much of financial investment.
Okay. When I say it's nothing hard to lose, in the sense that we were a marginal player, let's accept it. Not having a border, common border, not able to access the country, and not able to match the kind of personal, human, social links between Pakistan and Afghanistan, or Iran on the other side. We simply like that. That we must accept that. But I was being more rhetorical in the sense that the way we talk about losing Afghanistan, well, the people who lost are the Afghan people. That was my point. Don't start beating your chest. The people who need help, the people in crisis are the Afghan people, not you. Yes, it is potentially a danger to India. Having said that, it's not that India can sit back and say nothing has happened. Of course you can't. You have to be now doubly alert. Because Pakistan can now use Afghanistan to install its proxies, the jihadi proxies that it has developed over the years, and then have deniability. Oh, these guys are in Afghanistan, we don't know what they are and we don't know who they are. So bad luck, they're attacking you. So we have to be alert on that. We'll have to work now. Again, the point of Taliban, we'll have to work with sections of society in Afghanistan and others to see that this doesn't happen. But on the other point, Kartikeya, no, you built roads for the Afghans. You built the Salma Dam, rebuilt it, made it bigger for the Afghans. You built the Northern Electricity Power System with others for the Afghans. They remain in Afghanistan for the service of the Afghan people. That is not a lost cause. And because of your efforts in Afghanistan, and the fact you provided a place where Afghans could come and study, tens of thousands, just look at them around. Every day now they're in a panic for medical and other things. So they do feel a sense of attachment to India. That is a strong constituency in our favor. And therefore to say that, one, this was not a financial investment like a stock market. Two, you have invested in that society to develop relations. That stays. That has not gone away anywhere.
But doesn't it prove a point that the Pakistan's diplomacy, or say that their security push has finally succeeded? Because the whole doctrine of Pakistan vis-a-vis Afghanistan was that we cannot have a New Delhi, pro-New Delhi government in Kabul, or a government in Kabul which is neutral to New Delhi, because that's the depth area which belongs to Pakistan. So I think Pakistan has achieved, to put it in that word of security specialist, its strategic objective.
As of now, maybe yes, but we thought the same in the 90s when the Taliban took over and we had no access to Afghanistan. Times are not, in history, things don't freeze at one moment of time. They change, they're dynamic. Yes, Pakistan wanted to control Afghanistan, wanted India out. And not just because it didn't want a Delhi-Kabul link. Delhi-Kabul have never been strategic partners in any anti-Pakistan. 65 war, 71 war, the Afghans were neutral. They were not with India. Even in Bangladesh, they were not with India. They were neutral. So this fear is an unnecessary fear. Pakistan wants instability in Afghanistan for various reasons. One of which is it allows Pakistan to play an important role in the geopolitics of the region. Two, a democratic, plural, successful, multi-ethnic Afghanistan is a challenge to the Pakistani army notion of the army's role in society. Pakistani army would not be able to dominate Pakistan polity and economy, but for permanent enmity with India and permanent instability in Afghanistan. So it's a complex situation, but let's see. But yes, the Americans failed, the Pakistanis have succeeded, but they have succeeded not because of anything else, but the failure of the Americans by and large to see that the problem was not Afghanistan, the problem was the Pakistani army.
Mr. Sinha, your comments on the fact that, do you feel that the Taliban is behaving slightly differently from the last time? I wouldn't use the word sophistication, but the sort of visuals which appall the world, they're missing right now. Do you think it's a well thought out strategy, give some 30 days, 40 days, and then, we can go back to the real
thing? Possibly. Also, if you see the age of the fighters, well, they're not really fighters. They've not been fighting pitched battles or anything. They're terrorists and insurgents, etc., who operate stealthily and go away. The Afghan population is substantially young, most of them born after 2001. They have not seen the old Taliban regime. So the new Taliban fighters that you see, if you see a photograph of the Kabul palace, the presidential palace, Argas, it's called, and they're all sitting on the sofas with their feet on it and eating in something. People are serving them. Half of them are on cell phones talking to their friends and family. Cell phones, right? This is a generation which knows the cell phone, which knows the internet, which knows the world, has lived outside Afghanistan, has seen the world. So in that sense, the leadership may be old, but there are changes there. I think some of it would be substantial changes, but yes, the belief in the Sharia and the need for their interpretation of the Sharia is strong. So whether this portion will last, in fact, I photographed yesterday from the locality of Kabul, Kartikeya, of girls in school dress going to school yesterday. That hasn't stopped yet, right? So whether it's cosmetic, whether they still need time to impose their medieval view, I really can't say. But I would think that there would be changes, not because that these people believe in human rights, but I guess because the new age, the new generation will not accept many of the things that were acceptable in the past.
But if you look at the leadership structure, the Taliban 2.0 is actually extension of the closed circuit of Mullah Omar. Habibatullah Akhundzada is related to him by marriage. Mullah Yaqub is the son, and Baradar served as his deputy. So if you look at the social milieu of the top leadership which controls Afghanistan, you would say that, well, Mullah Omar actually authored it 18 years ago.
Yes and no. After Mullah Yaqub is a young man also. He has not also seen the Taliban rule of the time. So while he is a son, no doubt. Yes, but the field commanders are young. The field commanders are not in their 50s and 60s. They're in their 20s and 30s. So in that sense, there is a churn. But do not see the Taliban as a set of one. Or half of them, more than half, have been living in their villages and coming out when needed to fight. Living in Pakistan, coming in and out. So, this is a very mobile kind of a group which has emerged now. So there were no pitched battles where two battalions fought each other, etc. So these were people from society only. And having grown in a different society than the societies of the 80s and the 90s, I would feel that there would be changes in thinking, in mindset, and an ability to be comfortable with modern things. As I said, they survive on this. In the 90s, they didn't, even when cell phones had to come back, Afghanistan didn't have it. So in that sense, it is, just an example, not substantive example, it's an example of the kind of changes.
But Mr. Sinha, Taliban is not about Afghanistan only. The Taliban is like an idea, it's their ability to inspire Islamic insurgencies from Syria to Iraq to Yemen to Central Asia, which is now normal. I think that's where the challenge is. That's where the fear stems from, that Afghanistan will turn into another battleland for the terrorists, where people will have no control. For example, the bombing, which the Americans did very sporadically, they were all from Qatar, because they had closed all their bases. So the whole issue is what the idea of Taliban will inspire.
One inspiration, yes, it could inspire others, but Taliban itself has never been active outside Afghanistan. It was Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, the rest of the world, who were the Central Asia that you mentioned, Uzbekistan, Yemen, and else places. It was the Al-Qaeda affiliates. So the danger today in that sense is that Taliban's coming to power could enable Al-Qaeda and its likes to find a fertile ground to base themselves in, not the Taliban itself. So it is, as I said, it is definitely a fear. The Taliban itself has never operated outside. They don't even talk about the world outside Afghanistan, in that sense. But yes, could the Al-Qaeda come back? That is a question which the world will have to address sooner than later, because again, with technology and terrorism all over the world, borders don't count, locations don't count. You can be thousands of miles away and still be hit. So yes, that is definitely a fear. That is definitely a threat.
How badly does it impact India? Because Indian investments in Afghanistan were all about integrating a part of Afghanistan closer to Herat with Chabahar and then Central Asia. The whole idea was Kandla, Chabahar, Jaranj, Helmand, Kandahar, Ghazni, Kabul, Mazar-e-Sharif, and then you go straight away to Tajikistan. That was the whole idea. Now, what happens to us? We haven't invested in terms of military.
No.
The trade is out of the window. As you have said, ISI has become very, very active in Afghanistan. What should India do? Where should it buy influence from? Where should it start?
Of course, one change which has occurred in the last 5-6 years is China. Iran is now the largest single destination from which Afghanistan imports. So earlier, Pakistan was the largest supplier to Afghanistan. It is now Iran. The Khyber Torkham checkpost has been replaced by the Islam Kala checkpost, which is northwest of Herat. So Iran is very much in the picture. India and Iran, I believe, are in conversations, and we definitely need Iran to understand that while it needed America, it needed to needle America in this new circumstances which has happened. Iran would have to reassess its position on Afghanistan and possibly work to, as I said, temporarily setbacks is definitely there, but long term you need to work out alternatives so that this link between India, Iran, Central Asia is actualized.
How do you look at the longevity of Taliban? It's as if there is no political opposition, there is no military opposition, there is no Ahmad Shah Massoud, there is no Lion of Panjshir. No. Your comments on the longevity of this new regime, if I may use the word.
That's a very, very tough one. Bhavishwani is something which one should not be doing. But yes, and I had predicted this 3-4 months ago that there would be no civil war. There is no military opposition. The young Afghans, the non-Taliban young Afghans, have picked up English language and computers. They have dropped the gun. There is nobody to do fighting anymore. And all the jihadi leaders, the Amir of Herat, Ismail Khan, the Lion of Panjshir, of course, is dead. Dostam, etc., are aged people who no longer command respect, who no longer command support among the people. So in that sense, there is no viable opposition at all. Our old friends, the other alliance, are half in Pakistan, half in Turkey. So there is no opposition on the ground at all to the Taliban. So in that sense, any change which has to come about in Afghanistan will have to be internal to Afghanistan. So extraneous elements working is going to be difficult. Can changes happen within Afghanistan itself? That if not change Taliban will never become a democratic, human right believing force. Never. Let's be very clear on that. But then a lot of the world is not, and we deal with them, right? If you look around our neighborhood, look at other parts of the world deals with all kinds of people who rule their countries. So let's not be judgmental on that. Can we help initiate forces within which would put pressure for making these changes towards making Afghanistan more hospitable, more open, more diverse? I don't know, but I think there are opportunities there. And as I said, we should not write off a country of 30 million plus. We should not write them off. It would be completely unfair. After spending 2 decades engaged with them, now tell them, sorry, guys, I'm off and you handle yourself. That would be dangerous to us ultimately also.
Tell me one thing. In your opinion, what explains such rapid success or to say success of the 11-day offensive of Taliban? What made them succeed? Why were they successful in buying loyalties? Using that, Americans arranged it for them?
Good one, a very good one. It's a mixture of the two. There was definitely, at the end, it was very clear it was the US-Taliban arrangements. Taliban did not fire one shot at the Americans. They let them all leave. They let others leave also. So there was definitely, and therefore the military itself came to believe, military was very badly trained despite what people thought it is. They had people recruited for a short period of time and they would go out and come back, desertions, fraud soldiers, ghost soldiers on the roads, money being stolen, supplies not coming, food not available, ammunition not available. Army could not have fought too long, but they could still have fought for some period of time. But the moment the army units realized that there is no support coming, and these are the new rulers, each person decided, let me do my own bargain. Instead of, dying for what there's no cause to die for, might as well start bargaining. And that is why Taliban actually, after the initial fighting, the rest of the country, including the areas where the Taliban is not strong, just fell like a pack of cards. The progress was so rapid that even one day before the Taliban reached Kabul, most people thought they'd take another 1 week, 10 days to reach Kabul. And next morning, they were at the outskirts of Kabul, this beautiful lake called Karga, that could reach Karga, and they were camping there, So it was that buying of loyalties and the feeling that we have no future left. So might as well make deals and save your lives.
And my last question to you, Mr. Sinha, is what's the long road ahead for New Delhi?
As I said, patience, calm, do not panic. Yes, it is a big setback. Let's be clear about it. It is a big setback, but it is not the end of the world. Afghanistan is too complex for ISI and the Pakistani army to deal on their own. There are enough fractures already there within the Taliban, within Afghan society, between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And therefore, things will change. Sometimes we need good luck, but sometimes you have to work hard, sweat, and wait for changes to happen. I do not think that this feeling that Afghanistan has now become a permanent protectorate of Pakistan is going to work. And that despite Chinese backing, there will be serious challenges for Pakistan going ahead.
Mr. Sinha, thank you so much for making time for our special presentation on Point with Kartikeya for News9. Thank you very much, sir.